Mexico. Now the crisis that I call it is getting worse by the day. On Thursday, at least 1,300 migrants escaped a detention center. They're mostly Cubans. That was in southern Mexico. 700 have been detained once again, but 600 are loose. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, an illegal immigrant who has already been deported 5 times now stands accused of murdering a 4-month-old infant. But in the Democratic Party, in some cases, the only immigration problem we have is the border still exists at all. Take, for example, presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke. He not only stands on counters on every good diner, but if he's elected, he's got an idea. He's going to cut back on the number of illegal immigrant deportations.
In 1 year alone, in the previous administration, 400,000 deportations from inside the United States. We don't need those internal roundups and deportations and enforcement.
So under an O'Rourke administration, will ICE exist? Yes or no?
Yes, it will, but it will not employ those practices that we've seen not just under this administration, but under the previous administration.
Okay, thanks
for asking.
So ICE will exist, but be like the Maytag repairman. No one will ever come. They won't really do anything. Ethan Bierman, host of the Left Coast News podcast, joins us right now. Ethan, do you like Beto O'Rourke's answer? Does it represent Ethan's views?
I actually like what Congressman O'Rourke had to say, and it's correct. We need to focus on violent criminals, gangs, the type of people that you just put up on the screen, but we don't need to be intercepting dads dropping their kids at school who have been here for 20 years and their kids are U.S. citizens to break up those families and stopping people randomly on the street to inquire about their immigration status. This is a poor use of resources.
Right. So, Ethan, that's one thing with ICE, and if I had Tom Homan here, he would tell you that rarely happens. It is criminals, overstayed visas, and what have you. But to create order at the border, do you believe we should do exactly what we're doing now, or what should we do to change things? Because Dick Durbin, Congressman Pete Aguilar, both Democrats, Benny Thompson, Katie Porter, liberal columnist Thomas Friedman, and Senator Cory Booker have finally admitted there's a crisis. So if there's a crisis, you have to address that crisis. What should be done?
Well, there's no question there's a humanitarian crisis at our border. These are human beings that are fleeing violence, food insecurity, non-functioning governments in Central America. They are human beings that deserve compassion, not being called names, not being told that they're horrible people. That provides cover, for the cartels who are the bad people that we need to address. Instead of spending trillions of dollars in the Middle East, why don't we invest some of that money in our sphere of influence
I think you're right. I think you're right in this. Well, I definitely think we need an approach to Central American governments where people are going to say this is infiltration, this is aid. I get it. Not just giving checks, but having programs. I understand it. But what's happening in Central America is not unique. What's happening in Cuba is not unique. But the fact is our policies make it a magnet. We stop the Mexicans coming over, and we have them coming over orderly. How do we do it in Central America? Change the laws. And this way, asylum could be a system rather than anarchy. Don't you agree?
Well, the problem has been that the current Attorney General and the previous Attorney General have changed asylum rules. We have done this to ourselves during the Trump administration by making it harder instead of using the bonds. Remember, asylum seekers with children who put up a bond show up in court at 98%, 97% rates. It was working, and then we changed the rules to be more cruel toward asylum seekers, which has actually added to the chaos.
But Ethan, I'll challenge you on the word cruel. I think we're doing the best we can with people who cross in very dynamic, dangerous situations because we give them the idea that they can stay. Instead of going through the embassy, going through an application, instead of trekking through Mexico, being taken advantage of, and then get here, and then we put them in soon-to-be tent cities. The way to do that is to change the laws. We could do it in a half hour, and Jay Johnson sat on the Fox and Friends couch and said as much. The Flores rule, the amendment, would have hampered him. It got overturned in 2015. It's being abused in 2019. Final thought.
Well, again, we have to address root issues, and we keep avoiding that. If we really want to address why people view us as this beacon of liberty and want to come here, let's help them stay in the countries that they didn't want to leave in the first place.
Ethan, you know we can't take everybody.
I'm not saying we take everybody. Let's fix their home countries in our sphere of influence. No, most of them are fleeing violence and food insecurity, Brian. And if we can solve that and get them some functioning government back in their home countries, get the cartels to not be in control, then they will stay at home where they can grow their food and we can help them with where they want to be in the first place.
I don't know if you heard or been watching, it's very hard to control other countries' policies, even in the best intent, with the best intentions. But there is chaos in the Central American countries. I wish we get control of the border. The Border Patrol got a raise. That's the first start. Number two is to get Democrats and Republicans together and solve this. I appreciate it, Ethan. Talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Brian.